Hello and welcome back to the Inverted Castle, a Metroidvania enthusiast podcast. I'm what lies at the end of your blade, Eric Fox. Ouch, by the way. And joining me as always is a man I used to film running around in his pajamas for completely legitimate reasons. It's Tom Blade.
It was mocap, I swear.
He still thinks rotoscoping's a real thing. But regardless, we're not talking about the original Prince of Persia, but rather its glorious return to two dimensions in Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, released by Ubisoft in the year of our Lord 2024. It is a Metroidvania this time, and it does so virtuosically, it made me forget that the other games were not, in fact, Metroidvanias.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know. I haven't played the original or the trilogy in a while.
They are, if memory serves, level-based and more pure puzzle platforming, rather than explore them up, get more powerful type affairs, but...
Fair.
Actually, I think the 3DS version of the 2008 remake is vaguely... never played it myself, but regardless, we're not talking about those games. Hell, we're barely talking about a prince at all. And this game stars Sargon, a member of an elite team of fighters for hire. Maybe they work directly for the Queen of Persia before the plot happens.
Yes, importantly, this group is called Immortals, and they will not let you forget that.
Correct, and yet... You theoretically can't die insofar as you're the protagonist and, you can just restart. But everyone else are supremely mortal.
Fair.
I don't know. You having experienced the story more recently than I, would you like to kind of start us off here?
Oh, yeah. The story, it's a little convoluted, I don't know.
It involves timelines and time travel and a lot of characters who may as well be there, but... No.
That's not even the convoluted part. The convoluted part is people's motivations. I don't know.
Yeah.
The Prince of Persia is kidnapped to the historical capital, which underwent a time problem 30 years ago, and time there is now wibbly-wobbly. You are ostensibly there to rescue him. I don't know how far do we want to get into spoilers.
Probably all the way at some point. I guess this is your jumping off point for people who care about that sort of thing. I already kind of spoiled it. You should play this game.
We're actually telling you for once.
I know, but also not for the story. So don't worry too much about that one. Overall, I find it serviceable enough, but we'll get into it.
Yeah. So when you try to rescue the prince, the leader of your outfit instead kills him and then declares that you are the enemy of the rest of the outfit, and then you spend the rest of the time trying to rewind time so that you can save the prince and fix everything, eventually saving him and then having to confront the leader who is trying to become God.
Yes, he's actually... So, 30 years ago, the reason everything went to crap is that the current Queen of Persia kind of did a coup. And she did not actually receive the divine right to rule from the bird god, the Simurgh, but she's been acting like she has, and the past 30 years, things have been kind of not great for the country. It turns out the leader of your outfit, Varam, is the legitimate son of the previous king, and so he wants to get his birthright, as well as restore the god, the Simurgh, by essentially becoming a new god. It didn't seem like it was going to go too well for anyone should he achieve that. Blinded by power, greed, absolute power corrupts absolutely. And so, yeah, you gotta stop him as well as fight through some of your previous allies. There are like 7 of you initially and 3, but really only 2 of them oppose you in any way.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed in that, especially one of them just kind of disappears from the narrative.
Are you talking about Radjen, the assassin lady? Yeah.
Shows up dead?
Okay, so I wasn't sure if this was just my bad memory or if I missed a cutscene, but at a certain point, after you're declared persona non grata, half of your crew is like, okay, screw you. The other half is just like, this seems weird. We'll still support you, but also never really do anything. And they mention that Radjen's out there and hunting you. And then at some point, I think the prince or Sargon is just like, man, sucks that Radjen died. And I just completely missed it, and I'm glad to hear that you missed it as well.
There's a lore item that implies that you're like reading her diary after she died, or something.
Sure.
But yeah, it's like, okay, I remember seeing you in the depths, and then I found your corpse.
And you don't even need to see her in the depths. That's optional.
Yeah, timey-wimey, I guess.
Also, that's also a thing, is like you're also encountering your own corpse at certain points of timelines where you failed.
Yeah.
I don't know why that doesn't apply to her as well, where if you found her corpse, or I think you even find the bow dude's dead body as well, or at least his that's where you get your arrows.
You find your corpse with his bow.
Ah, that's it.
So a previous or other alternate you presumably found his corpse or killed him and took his bow.
Right. So, yeah, she's just gone, but otherwise there are two boss fights between you and the bow dude, and you and a big fisherman guy.
Yeah, Orod.
Orod, and then Varum, as well as a bunch of other fights with like various creatures, giant beasts, and godlike beings.
Yeah, there's some people who had some weird theory about her being the queen of the forest, and I don't think that's what they intended that to be.
It did not read like that at all. The Queen of the Forest had a name, had a proper noun name, and had a bunch more lore entries about who she is and what she did that corrupted the forest before you beat her ass.
Yeah.
So that does not hold water to me. I think this is explicitly cut content.
Yeah, at one point it says that she's an outsider, and I interpreted that as like outside the universe. And I don't think that's the interpretation that I was supposed to take.
Far more importance that implies.
Maybe just outside of the forest or outside of Persia. I don't know.
No, she's outside of the game at this point.
But actually taking a shot at describing the gameplay, it's a very combo-based fighter or brawler-influenced Metroidvania.
Yeah, a lot of effort was put into the combat system of your like melee attacks, into like juggling, dash attacks, parrying. Love a good parry, and this game really rewards you for getting that right. Like you have a super meter that gets recharged when you parry, and you can do stuff with that, as well as certain attacks that are just, if you parry it, you do a like riposte of sorts.
Yeah, I was so bad at using that. I don't know.
Oh, all parries all the time. Listen. So, in addition to that, you also have, like Hollow Knight, like a bunch of other things, these are amulets that just up your stats in various ways, give you unique abilities. I was all in on boost melee attack, boost melee attack in the air, boost super meter from parries, boost super attack things. Never did anything with the bow, even though you could, but yeah.
I just went all in on more sword damage, more combos.
You theoretically could do things like when you parry, you get a time bubble of things move slow. You can absolutely get chakram damage, which, in addition to being a bow, the bow also turns into a boomerang chakram that you can throw out. It'll deal like damage out and in. You can have an amulet that makes it like spin in place and deal damage. You can also parry it as it comes back for more synergy.
Yeah.
There's some depth to this combat, even though on its face it seems pretty mashy, and it only expands as you increase your repertoire of traversal abilities.
That said, you will almost never actually need that, and in the case of most of the boss battles, will be actively prevented from doing any cool stuff. I don't know. I didn't. That's one of my pet peeves of boss battles in combo-based systems, where it's like, yeah, you just can't do the combo stuff because they're not going to sit still long enough for you or whatever.
Some of them definitely do, but yeah, like you're not going to get air juggling on the really large beasts. But because they're so large, you'll still get the buffs from hitting them in the air.
Yeah.
But the humanoid bosses like Menelaus, Bow Dude, you can absolutely air juggle him up to a point. He definitely does his like, he's a boss, legendary resistance, get off of me thing. But I don't know. I didn't feel handcuffed in the boss battles. Like it sounds like you were a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. I think especially the like earlier boss battles leaned heavier on the big enemy thing, and then you got the humanoids.
That's fair. You'll like a lot of humanoid standard enemies, some of which have larger health bars than others, but no, I get you. I think I was just enjoying the like general sense of like your dash doesn't have iframes, so it's really just about positioning as well as actually parrying the moves that don't have the red telegraphed "you cannot block this" type things. I don't know, I felt it really satisfying getting in the hits where I can, and it was difficult enough without being like overwhelmingly so. It struck a really good balance for me. I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair. On some of the yellow ones, which is the prompt for, hey, you can do a special parry, which thankfully, unlike, say, Metroid Dread, not required to kill enemies, because I would have been there for a while.
Oh, yeah.
But on some of them, I just could not get the timing that they expected, apparently. I was like, I mean, I'm pretty sure I'm parrying when their weapon is coming to bear on me.
But sometimes, like, it just doesn't connect at the time you think it should.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I definitely missed a lot, but it always felt like that's on me. I definitely also sandbagged a couple of bosses just because I hadn't seen the specific parry cinematic on it, and we're just like, oh, I can't move on yet, and almost paid for it.
Fair.
I think I actually did have to redo an entire boss fight just because I did that. I think it was King Darius. One of the last fights in the snow area.
Yeah.
Like, I was pretty all in on parry. Like, one of the super moves you get is a super parry. It uses all three of your bars and requires that you get hit, but it actually has a pretty generous activation window, I found, even if not every enemy is gonna actually get hit by its hitbox after you use it.
Yeah, I didn't actually use that many of the limits. I used the ones that attacked around you. I used the one that heals you as an additional heal. That's pretty much it. I didn't even mess around with that one, which in my head is just Winter's Riposte. Yeah, that's right. Blaze Blue content.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it does, like, the whole idea of the super meter and building up combos and blocking and stuff. It's fighting game adjacent, sure.
Yeah.
But no, I stuck with the riposte and the one that does a whirlwind around you for just the one bar.
Oh, yeah.
It just locked enemies in place so I could hit them with my melee more, because that's where all my damage was.
Yep, I did the same thing.
Yeah, there are like 8 to 10 other ones of varying cost and usability. Like a decent amount of player expression is what I'm trying to get at here, is between that, the amulets, the various things you can spec towards. Like, I don't think the bow can deal out a lot of damage, but I don't know, I never tried.
So the bow can have burn procs, which if an enemy parries it, it will burn you. So that's fun, because I tried that against Human Varum, and that was a bad idea.
Oh, and you can't parry it back?
I mean, you might be able to, but at that point you're playing tennis with the boss over not very much damage.
Okay, well, Zelda did it, and everyone loves that game.
But like, as long as his sword is not currently swinging, he will parry it.
Okay.
Or maybe you have to actually be at his back to actually land a hit. It was not a great strategy for trying to get extra damage in on him.
Maybe mid melee combo. I can't remember.
Yeah,
because I didn't try the bow.
There was also some like split your arrows into 5, but they do less damage. I don't know. There were things. I never focused on it either, or the chakram.
And when you're spending like currency / resources in order to upgrade these things, you kind of do commit to a certain extent. Although, like with most games, I was awash in money by the end, so I theoretically could have played around a bit more, just didn't.
I wasn't actually that awash in money in that I was constantly upgrading. Like, I had finished out my primary build and was just upgrading other things at that point.
Just to have them,
yeah.
Just in case.
And then after the end of the game, it gave me enough to upgrade everything that I had remaining.
Yeah, if you 100% the game, you will have 100% of things. It's not actually locking you out.
Yeah, in terms of the traversal,
yeah,
there's a bunch of platforming in this. It makes some interesting choices, I guess is the way I'm going to word it. They have some fairly typical abilities. There's the arrows. The arrows are also a chakram. I'm not sure why they decided they needed to give you 2 ranged attacks in one. I find it kind of funny. The chakram can also hit switches.
Yeah, like the chakram also doesn't use arrows, which are technically limited as well.
Yeah.
More relevant early in the game when you only have like 5 or 10.
Yeah, that's true.
But also it just does have a different property in terms of combat, as well as, it takes time to charge up, but it is better. As well as it combines with a later ability, which is probably one of the most unique things I've seen in one of these.
Yeah.
So like in addition to the like hitting switches, you get an air dash, which looks like the classic Prince of Persia wall run.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, like a lot of the platforming in this in general, like swinging around bars, wall jumping, sliding down walls, it's all very reminiscent, and it takes that kind of style and applies it to the Metroidvania puzzle platforming just so well. No bad ideas. But this also has, instead of time rewinding, you instead place a clone of yourself in a spot that you can then warp back to later after, say, a platform goes by or spike walls, get behind them. Or if you're mid-combat, get behind the enemy. Or, use it to avoid the big full-screen attacks.
Or you can actually queue up the charged attacks twice.
Yes, which is a thing that thankfully the game does explicitly tell you. If you go back to the tutorial dude, as you unlock new things, he'll be like, hey, have you tried when you're air juggling and you knock them away, air dash after them? Keep going. Stuff like that. It's great.
Yeah, that one is a little interesting in that it also has a major mechanic that says don't use this in the form of the Xerxes coins.
Oh.
So once you touch a Xerxes coin, you have to get to solid ground to actually claim it.
Yeah, Celeste Strawberry rules.
Yeah, if you use the recall, the Xerxes coin will just go back.
Yeah, you can't cheese a platforming segment by just putting it on the ground and being like, okay, I only need to do half of this, and then just immediately warp back.
Yeah, but
it makes sense.
I get why those challenges would be trivialized by the ability, but it's a kind of a thing of like, yeah, but you put the ability and the challenge in the game. You made this decision to put, I don't know what, I was going to say something about like chocolate and peanut butter, but those go together. You need something that doesn't go together.
Those actually do go together, famously.
Yeah.
You put hamburgers and milk in the same blender.
Yeah.
Okay, I can see where you're coming from.
It's not that big of a deal. But the other thing, I guess, is like, if you were doing platforming just in general, there's a lot of the time where your platforming failure is hitting spikes, which will then bring you back to the last solid ground you hit. Or that you were at, right? So now, if you want to use recall to save yourself, you need to recognize that you're going to hit the spikes and hit the recall button faster than you actually hit them. I don't know, it felt like it was an ability that should have been more useful for platforming in general than it was.
I found it, like, less so for, like, spikes and almost, like, getting hit by those, but really it's, pits, or when you're like climbing like the mountainside, or some of the later one of the big challenges at the top right of the map or whatever, where you're just like whipping around and trying to get these three different MacGuffins before touching the ground. It's helpful there just to be like, okay, I can kind of set a reset point, but it's all takes either pre-planning or it's an explicit part of the puzzle.
Yeah,
I found it useful, but I thought it was unique enough. And it was probably my favorite addition to the repertoire of classic Metroidvania traversal options.
Oh yeah, it was definitely very interesting. I don't feel like I was using it well, in that like I almost never used it in combat, and when I did, it was only to set up two of the charged wave attacks.
I would occasionally try and pop it down just to have a bit of a panic button. Although that would sometimes screw me when there are certain like boss moves that is like, oh no, now he's charging up a thing. You know where to put your safe zone. You need to like be able to stay up in the air a bit longer than otherwise you can. But yeah, I don't know.
Other abilities, there's the dimensional pocket, which mostly ends up working as bombs.
It's essentially bombs. You pop a bomb in your bag of holding. And then you transport it elsewhere where you need to blow something up. Or it's like a battery you gotta pop into a slot.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can do some things with taking enemy projectiles, but I didn't really use it all that much.
Well, you can also take enemies and claim them, and they'll fight for you.
Oh, okay.
Did you never try that? You can just pocket them, and then when they come out, they'll have a blue thing on them.
Yeah. I think some of the flying enemies I'd do that for. Like, I don't think I bothered with it all that often. I think I was really just killing dudes.
One thing in particular that I was just being very dumb about it. It took me a long time to realize that you could dimensional pocket a whole bunch of the energy attacks that the snake Azdaha throws at you. So I was just like, man, these attacks are real hard to dodge.
I think I might have face tanked those. I don't remember. I just never really thought about turning the things against them. I was too busy just dodging in mano a mano. Let's fight it out.
Yeah, no, you can just dimensional pocket them and then throw them back at him.
Let it never be said I'm not very stupid. Yeah, dimensional pocket is fine. It mostly serves a function. getting back to that teleport we were talking about, you eventually get an upgrade where you can throw out your chakram and then teleport to it instead of a clone you put down, just to get into otherwise inaccessible places past barred doors and whatnot.
The one thing that annoyed me about this is I kept being like, oh, these barred doors clearly are going to have a way to open them later. And so I kept looking for ways to open these barred doors, and it turns out, no, okay, I'm going to go through them using this ability.
Yeah, you don't need a key, just be on the other side. It's easy. And you can also use that to get a lot of height in certain places by just throwing your chakram up and then double jumping. Oh, yeah, there's a double jump, obviously.
Yeah, you gotta have a double jump.
And you gotta have a grapple hook of sorts. That's like the last thing you get.
Oh, yeah.
Which is wild, but it's fun to whip around and just, especially in the area you mostly use it for, the glacier mountain climbing area.
And I guess, speaking of that, one other thing that we didn't really talk about is the ability on the map to take screenshots.
Yes, okay.
Which is a limited resource, which I found a little strange. I don't know. Mostly my annoyance with that is that the number of things that I screenshotted at the very beginning of the game that turned out to require the last ability you get, which is the grapple hook, right? Like, I hit the edge of the forest, saw what would later turn out to be a grapple hook point.
Yep.
And screenshotted that and had that screenshot for almost the entire game.
Did you actually run into the limit on your screenshots?
I came pretty close.
Okay. I didn't, but like I probably should. There's definitely a few things I should have used that limited resource on. But I just think this is such a good thing that all of these games should have because, like, you know, you develop a system for the markers if they deign to give you any of like what thing means what to trigger your memory. But a lot of the time I don't remember exactly what ability I need. And so being able to just bring up this screen of what's actually there cuts down so much on useless backtracking.
Yeah.
Oh, such a good feature. Of all the quality things, the most quality of life thing is this, I would say.
Fair.
Like, I'm not sure if it's like a technical reason why they limited it like that.
But they give you more of them.
Yeah, like that's one of the, like that's a thing that you collect as an upgrade is, oh, you can take more screenshots.
Yeah. And so, I don't know. I find that the choice to take more screenshots behind unlocks kind of strange. I guess the other thing to talk about is so this has a pseudo Souls-like healing system in that you've got a limited number of potions. You get your potions back when you touch a checkpoint.
Yep.
You lose money when you die, but there is no corpse run.
And it's not that much money, if I recall.
Yeah, it's not that much money. But you exclusively get potions and potion upgrades by buying them in a store. Except for one single one that you get as the result of a side quest. And it was like, that's an interesting choice. Because you could have put them in the chests in the world like the other things. But you decided not to. Yeah,
or like have it be an upgrade resource that you then combine with whatever you're buying in the shop.
Yeah, right. Like, it's an interesting choice to do that. I'm not exactly for or against it. I guess it makes it kind of underwhelming for that. It also probably makes it so that if somebody's really struggling, they can just grind to get more.
It's one of the main ways to mitigate difficulty is you can fuck up a bit more, have another flask, have another do-over. So I guess that makes sense. Although, like, with these games, what to put in the rewards is very important. And they don't always nail that in this game. I'm looking at you, cosmetics options.
Yeah, the cosmetics options are pretty bad.
Among the worst I've seen.
Apparently, the one that I did like, which is the original Sands of Time outfit, also is a later edition. It wasn't in the original game at launch.
Yeah, I believe that's the case. I believe the Warrior Within reference costume was a pre-order bonus, which I didn't get it either. Yeah, I played this game at launch, so I didn't see that, and you played it recently, so there's a few differences there. But other than that, all of the, let's be honest, just pairs of pants you find for the rewards of various things, including like the hardest death trap gauntlet.
The hardest? I thought that was the last part of the prophecy I was missing.
Oh, yeah.
And I finally got through it after, like, making dumb mistakes on, like, the last thing a couple times.
It's a really long thing. It's really fun. I loved it. I thought honestly there should have been more, which we eventually got, but no.
And then it was like, skin? And it's not even good.
I honestly felt they all looked kind of ugly. Like it's a filter applied over your character model of like different like colorations and skin tone that none of them look human and they just kind of look weird.
Yeah.
Maybe they turned Sargon blonde, which I don't know. I stuck with the default the entire time, and I'm the guy who plays Dark Souls for pretty princess dress up. So
yeah, I stuck with the default too. My only complaint about that one is that it started really slow. So I was like, okay, come on, this is the easy stuff. Let's keep it moving.
And you can't get hit, I believe, otherwise it resets.
Yep.
Yeah, like the spikes reset the thing. It's not just, you can't just tank through it with more health, so. So yeah, there are a few things where the reward didn't quite measure up, so, putting a healing flask in there would always feel good, but I can understand if someone's struggling with specifically the combat, having another way to just bypass that and get to what I think is also the good stuff of puzzle platforming, sure. Not going to take too many marks off that. I just really wish they had better cosmetics if they're going to do it at all.
Yeah, but recoloring is very cheap, right? That's probably why it's like that.
Oh, I know why it happened, and to be fair, this game definitely seemed like they had a budget. Even though this is Ubisoft, whichever, there are certain elements to its texturing. Like it's not a high budget game, but I think they really made some clever use of its theatrical like framing, its animations where they spent the money. And so, yeah, makes sense that the bonus super optional stuff is something they slept out in an afternoon.
And yeah, actually, you alluded to the challenges that they added. I have not actually gone through the challenges. I started the first one way too early before I had all of the movement components, and I was like, I'm gonna come back to this, and then just never did.
A lot of them also just do limit you on what you have access to. Like, oh, this one is just dashing and double jump or using your warp ability. So you can do them anytime you have those. But yeah, no, I found that like I did a bunch of them. I didn't do the bonus bosses. From what I've seen, they've got some new moves. They take longer to kill. If you're a combat weirdo, they might slake your thirst. But the platforming stuff, exactly what I wanted back when I played it originally. It's very tough to come back to after many months.
Fair.
Definitely took me longer. The one that I would say is not welcome was the puzzles where you have to like basically make 3 clones of yourself. So you go through and do a bunch of actions. Then it warps you back to the beginning, and so you have a ghost that does all of those, which manipulates the environment, and then you have to do the second thing. I just found those take a bit too long and are a bit too tedious. A neat puzzle idea, but I just reached my puzzle game limit of how complicated I wanted those.
I liked them in the base game.
I liked all of them except for like the last most complicated ones. But again, see previous comments regarding my mental capacities. Not good. But no, I thought it was a pretty cool free edition that came later, and I guess this game's getting DLC later in the year. May or may not play it. We'll see how I'm feeling and what we're doing. Outside of that,
I don't know. I haven't done that much reading on Persian mythology. There's certainly an interesting question of how blasphemous somebody from that culture would consider something like that.
This was the first game to have it released in Farsi, I want to say. Like voice acted.
Because, I don't know, there was definitely a point where they're like, oh yeah, you're gonna do something like unbelievable and go work with the snake devil. And I was like, I feel like this is supposed to backfire on Sargon. And it never does.
It was set up like that, like, oh, this will be a very, very Faustian bargain.
Yeah.
To use our cultural references.
Yeah. Like, turns out Snake Devil at the bottom of the sand pit, completely trustworthy once you beat him up. Oh.
You just needed to beat him up. I think that was the risk, I guess, is this god might kill you dead. But don't worry, you're a bad enough dude.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm also not familiar enough. I'm pretty sure this is all like, the serial numbers filed off of actual mythology. I don't want to like speak on the record that, yeah, the Sumer's actual bullshit doesn't exist, and then absolutely get wrecked once I fact check this after the fact.
Yeah.
Not going to Google anything now. Don't be crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. I found the ending a little meh. I don't know. I guess this is also a thing.
I found it very funny.
I texted you at one point. I was like, oh, I was expecting the going back and time traveling to be the point where they would bad end you and say, hey, no, go do the full completion, go get the full prophecy or something in order to get the true end. They didn't.
No, the full prophecy is really just, yeah, this is kind of what's going to happen throughout the game. A tale of like 3 princes.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, Sargon is like the secret child of, I think, the Queen Tamiris.
Yeah, and I never really understood what happened there. Like, why?
The babies were switched, and I'm not sure why, what kind of crazy Machiavellian scheme she had going that involved getting her mentor to kidnap her son in order to like try and get the divine right to rule, I guess. But then you're there, and maybe she was counting on you to get it, which you kind of do, but also, disregard by the end.
Yeah, I don't know. It's very, very confusing of what the heck Tamiris was up to there, where she orchestrated the capture of her own son in order to put him in a situation where the time-traveling prince that she tried to kill will kill him.
Yeah, and as well as this is the spot that has all the information on all of the bad stuff she did .txt.
Yeah.
And like that was actually the funniest thing is after the game, or like you come back and like the final cutscene is the prince like basically abdicating his throne, just like putting the crown on the ground, and everyone's just like, what the hell is he doing? And then he just leaves. And then Sargon being like, so I've discovered the truth. King Darius was murdered 30 years ago. Ask her about it. And then he also just leaves. And then like that's the last bit of story, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, there's after the credits where he's just riding a horse away, and young time-cursed Varum is there.
Oh yeah.
Who is permanently young, and is like, is he going to become the king now? What? I don't know.
I assume that's DLC teaser trailer type shit, but I just really liked that, like, just accusing her of basically treason 30 years ago and then just dipping, but like not explaining anything else, just like, sort out your own shit, guys, peace.
Yeah.
And just allowed to just walk out. As you hear in the background, just like, oh, what is he talking about? We've got to invest. What is the queen? It was very silly dialogue.
Very strange.
Yeah, but
and then all his friends form a found family without him, possibly? I don't know.
Yeah, all of your friends, all of the members of the Immortals who really didn't do much in the main game, which I think is just the old guy and your friend, the big warrior woman.
Yeah.
You should have done more.
I also kind of wonder if I missed some of the scenes with Child Varum or something, because it went from like
just weird boy to I'll do anything to save this child.
Yeah.
Very quickly.
It's like, Sargon, you're my closest friend. It was like, really? I mean, I guess you've been time trapped in this place for who knows how long, and so I'm the most consistent thing that has appeared to you, but we've only talked like 3 times, guy.
Yeah, and also, when does Sargon realize who this time child is? And he's also like already talking with a lot of very weird, eccentric characters who are like living in this time trapped world, like the girl who sells you maps and just like seems to know more than she lets on, and the weird old man who's a bird.
Yeah, I did find it kind of funny that once you time travel, it has almost no impact on anything except that everyone has a dialogue explaining how they still know who you are post time travel.
Yeah, it plays pretty fast and loose, but you can't have a Prince of Persia game at this point without weird time travel, so had to be done. I'm sorry.
I guess. It's just, I don't know. I felt like it pulled some of the impact from the time travel.
Oh, yeah. This game's story is fine enough. I think the bits of dialogue you get are just, a little quirky. It works, but it's ultimately like a simple story that just kind of got put through the wash and came back with some time travel.
Also, Anahita apparently is not worth going back and saving. She's not a prince.
Not only that, like she survives the original Prince murder, and then when you go back, she ends up dying in that timeline. It was like, well, I guess here we go. Someone had to. She keeps asking you the main like repeated phrase, what lies at the end of your blade? Like, what are you doing after this? Why are you fighting? She kind of is the one that pitches that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it really pays off, but they certainly said it enough.
Yep. I don't feel like we really reached a resolution. I mean, I guess he values the truth more than he values fame or access to the royal family.
Being the strongest. He values his friends. His real friends, not the dudes they will fight him at the drop of a hat. It's fine. It doesn't really bear going into. The main thrust is like, hey, this is a really chunky, long game. I took about 25 hours playing through it. There's a bunch of story, but it all goes by really quickly, and a bunch of unique abilities, as well as a bunch of familiar ones that are just really good to include, as well as a combat system that had enough depth to carry it through that length.
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems like I'm much more positive about it than you are.
I mean, it was a solid game, but...
Can you get through the rest of this episode without using the phrase, I had fun with it?
No.
Challenge level impossible. Because you did, in fact, have fun with it.
Yes.
Regardless, I think I'm going to have to get this these feelings down to a hard number as we transition into our stack rank, which we do every episode. Try and compare this game to all of the games we played on this podcast. Personally, I'm looking pretty highly. I don't know if you've got a place you're thinking of already.
I mean, I always have to work it out in the moment. Thinking ahead is for suckers.
Yeah, so for my own list, number 1, Unsighted, number 2, Metroid Prime, number 3, Hollow Knight. None of these are changing. After that's Metroid Dread, which I think we've already compared it to, and being another like AAA adjacent, like I would not consider Ubisoft indie by any stretch. I found that I like this style of game, the style of platforming, as well as the bits that they added to like traversal or map making as well. Makes this a much easier recommend, as well as I think this is a longer game without feeling like it. So, new number 4, Prince of Persia, The Lost Crown.
Yeah, it certainly didn't drag. It never felt like it was just like going through the motions to be longer.
No, and I thought it paced its upgrades out fairly well. You have at points very large areas to explore that diverge. When you get to the big betrayal arc, you can do either of your buddy bosses in either order, more or less.
Although I guess I kind of wonder if the 4 constellations at one point each had a boss.
Maybe. Like, this game does scream like stuff got cut, budgets got ran up against, and maybe we'll see some of those ideas in the DLC.
Yeah, because I mean, that seems like the place that Radjin would have been, right?
Yeah, Radical Jennifer. She's going to get her moment to shine in Prince of Persia Lost Crown 2.
Yeah, so for me, I'm waffling, I guess. I had fun with it. I don't think it's...
There it is.
Cracking. I don't know that it's cracking the like top of the top.
Okay.
So I think I'm looking probably at least below Environment Station Alpha.
Okay, it's currently gatekeeping the top 10 in a sense.
Yeah.
And I know you hate Iconoclast. You've been trying to push it down forever. So this is a prime opportunity to put one last stake in my heart.
Yeah, clearly. I mean, so Guacamelee is an interesting comparison for it because a lot of the combo-based gameplay is very similar, right?
Yeah, in a sense, like you can ignore huge swaths of the complexity. Some of it is vestigial if you're on lower difficulties.
I mean, this game definitely does more interesting things with the abilities and more interesting things with the world than Guacamelee did with its pretty abstract stuff.
Yeah, the theming of Guacamelee really carries a lot of it.
Yeah, why not? I'm going to put it as the new number 10, bumping Iconoclasts out.
Well, it's still top 10. I'm not too mad about it, or at least I'm not going to be publicly mad about it. Please don't tell the newspapers I was mad. Instead, tell us a better game or worse game that we could play instead.
Yeah. Sorry, that's not a great transition.
That is, yeah, it is in fact.
Yeah. So back when we did Brainbreaker,
oh god,
we almost gave up on it and switched to Axiom Verge. and I keep thinking about it every once in a while. I think it's time to go back to Axiom Verge and actually handle it.
Yeah, I feel like it is a missing part of this, the pantheon of like big indie hits of this genre before it really exploded and became ubiquitous.
Yeah.
Ubiquitous software, like Ubisoft.
I see what you did there.
Wasn't intentional.
So yeah, we're gonna go to a different kind of dimensional travel in Axiom Verge.
Nice. Mostly, I'd like to return to this game so I can eventually play the sequel, which I never got around to.
Oh yeah, I haven't played the sequel either.
But we're not going to start with a sequel. That'd be crazy.
Who would do that?
It'd be like starting with Symphony of the Night and not playing Simon's Quest, which obviously is its.
Fair. We should play Simon's Quest at some point. It's Metroidvania-y.
It's not too late. I can cut out all that shit about Axiom Verge.
Nah, let's do Axiom Verge this time.
All right, let's commit. And just like you should commit to following us on Twitter at InvertedCastleP. Never forget the P. Email us at invertedcastlepodcast@gmail.com. Elsewhere, obviously, Inverted Castle. You know, Google's your friend. Well, not really. They've really gone down the deep end for past 20 years, but that's neither here nor there. We're on YouTube. It's a thing.
Yeah, that's probably the best place to leave a comment if you want us to see it.
Yeah, probably. Notoriously bad at correspondence.
I get to them eventually. I replied to someone's email a month later.
Hell yeah.
But I did eventually reply.
Well, good on you for that. I am Boo Boo the Fool. Actually, no, that's a lie. I've been Eric Fox.
And I've been Thomas Blake.
And remember, kids, you can leave. Just walk out. Doomed timelines, royal responsibilities, palace guards if you're quick. If shit sucks, hit the bricks.